In December 2024, Lynn Levin Guzman stood in her parents' front yard with a garden hose, desperately trying to protect their Pacific Palisades home. Not from flames. Those would come later. She was there because State Farm had just canceled their fire coverage after 75 years. "They've lived in this house since 1950, she told reporters. "Now we're on our own." 2 weeks later, that neighborhood would lie in ruins, over 5,300 structures destroyed. But here's what makes this tragedy different. Before the first ember ignited, insurance giants had already fled. State Farm dropped 70% of their coverage. Farmers Insurance followed. Then Allstate. One by one, they escaped before the inferno. Welcome to Delay, Deny, Depose. I'm Johnny Lama. Before we begin today's investigation into the Pacific Palisades disaster, I want to address some recent feedback that speaks to the core of our mission. A listener on Apple Podcasts expressed concern about my coverage of Luigi Mangioni's book purchases, suggesting I might have been influenced to paint him in a particular light. I appreciate this feedback. It's through honest dialogue that truth emerges. But from day one, this podcast has operated on two principles: absolute journalistic integrity and complete transparency. When I reported that Mangione purchased 400 copies of a self-help book, it wasn't to sensationalize. It was because omitting verified facts would compromise the very integrity you trust me to maintain. Like all awaiting trial, Mangione is innocent until proven guilty. My role isn't to judge, but to present verified facts from credible sources, which I meticulously document. Whether it's United Healthcare's denial practices or Mangione's actions, every fact must be reported with equal rigor. And as this podcast faces more increasing pressure, including a potential current shadow ban from Spotify and other platforms seen through ranking drops, maintaining unwavering truthfulness becomes even more crucial. Your trust is earned through consistent, verified reporting, not selective storytelling. Now, let's examine today's story about Pacific Palisades, where thousands of families lost insurance coverage months before disaster struck. Six months before Pacific Palisades burned, State Farm made a calculated decision. They canceled 1,600 policies in a single neighborhood, 2,000 more in surrounding Los Angeles zip codes like Brentwood and Calabasas. Their timing was impeccable. Just months before what would become the most destructive wildfire in Southern California history. Between 2020 and 2022, insurance companies declined to renew 2.8 million homeowner policies across California, over 500,000 in Los Angeles County alone. As traditional insurers fled, desperate homeowners turned to California's FAIR plan, the state's insurer of last resort. In Pacific Palisades, FAIR plan coverage quadrupled since 2020, from 350 homes to 1,400. 1 in every 7 homes now relied on this last resort coverage. But here's the devastating truth. The FAIR plan, meant to be California's safety net, had only $377 million available to cover potential losses. Their total exposure in the fire zone? $5.9 billion. That's a 1,465% difference in what coverage is actually needed. We are one event away from a significant assessment, FAIR Plan President Victoria Roach testified last year. There's no way around it. We lack sufficient funds and have considerable exposure. Perhaps most revealing is the timing. State Farm and others cited catastrophic risk when dropping coverage, yet internal documents show they specifically targeted areas they had already identified as having the most significant wildfire hazards. The pattern is strikingly familiar. Just as United Healthcare reports record profits while denying medical claims, California's insurers fled fire-prone areas while posting significant earnings. State Farm, which dropped 1,600 Pacific Palisades policies in July 2024, reported $44.9 billion in earned premiums that same year. Insurance has strayed far from its foundational purpose of pooling resources to protect against catastrophic loss. Whether it's medical care or homes, we're witnessing companies systematically abandoning their most vulnerable customers precisely when they're needed most. Customers like Quinn Perry, who stands in what used to be her bedroom in Altadena, pointing to a twisted metal frame. "This is where our bedroom used to be," she says. "That was our bed, my cherished antique. Now it's just ash." Like thousands of others, Perry had been forced to drop her insurance when companies refused to cover the area. As Los Angeles County Sheriff Robert Luna surveys the devastation, he describes neighborhoods that look like a bomb was dropped in them. Over 12,000 structures destroyed, 25 lives lost, 200,000 people evacuated. AccuWeather stated that this will be the costliest wildfire in California's modern history, with losses estimated between $135 to $150 billion, stemming from fires occurring in densely populated areas with some of the highest valued real estate in the country. On Monday, Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara declared an emergency, implementing a one-year moratorium on cancellations. But for thousands of families, it comes too late. Perhaps most troubling, this may be just the beginning. As climate change reshapes California's landscape, experts warn we're watching the emergence of what they call an uninsurable future. Tomorrow, we'll examine a bombshell report from the Federal Trade Commission revealing that United Health Group's pharmacy benefit manager overcharged cancer patients by more than 1,000% for critical medications. The findings, announced just hours ago, sheds new light on practices across the pharmacy and benefits industry. Until then, I'm Johnny Lama. Stay vigilant.